Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we are doing finally a discussion on the live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender, featuring Aang, and of course, Aang. Oh, right, and I got my brother here. This is the second video he's ever been in. You saw him in one other one for about 5 seconds. If you can guess what it is, put it down in the comments below.
You're a true fan if you know.
Yeah, no, seriously, you'll get a gift or something. But today, we are finally here to talk about the live-action Avatar. Now that we have had time to process and grieve, I think it's time that we actually talk about it. Because it's not all bad, right?
It's not all bad. It's not all good.
Let's get into this a little bit. I was thinking we do it like a, like pardon the interruption, so that it was like really quick. But like I don't have a way to do like a timer thing. We could have called it like pardon the honorruption. Honor. Zuko.
We can still.
We can't.
Why?
I don't know how to time it. I can't.
We have the little timer on the thing right there. We can just.
Not gonna physically. Fuck. Okay, so there are 4 pretty much main elements that we're going to talk about in this. It's going to be the characters / the acting, the pacing in the episodes, the world building, and the effects. So let's just start off talking about the characters and the acting, because we got a lot of thoughts on that one. Pretty much going through the main ones, starting off, obviously, Aang, played by Gordon Cormier. So for me, I thought he did a pretty good job. What is he, like, 12?
12, yeah. I think actually, yeah, he's actually 12.
And I think he definitely embodied the fun side of Aang and the very carefree side of Aang, which was really, really great, considering that they were talking about originally in the show how they were going to have the fun side, which is really serious. I think they actually did a really good job with his fun side.
Yeah, I think did a really good job. I mean, I know this is like among some of his first roles that he's ever done, so I think taking on a pretty big responsibility, if you will, was...
Man can't say responsibility. That's the one thing.
I don't want the responsibility.
You can see as the show progressed, he definitely became more comfortable in the role. I do think, maybe not, as we were saying, not too much to his own fault, but some of like the whimsy, some of the spunk of Aang is kind of lost from the character, taking it as in a less childish route of his character. So I think that's a little bit lost, but in totality, I think he did a great job. And
going along with that, I think one of the ones that, I mean, just collectively from the fan base, they said was pretty much one of the most perfect was Sokka of all people. They got a guy who looked the part, who sounded the part. Especially like second episode on, he got that voice down. He was funny, but he did have the dickishness at first. And I mean, I don't know. I didn't think that the taking out the sexism part of it even made a difference, to be honest. Everybody was in an uproar about it, and I was too, because I was like, all right, I was going to take away his character, but I don't think it did.
I don't think so either, because really when it comes down to it, it's just about him just being arrogant. It's not necessarily, I mean, there was some sexism to it, but it was mainly just about him just being very arrogant, and you can portray that in a variety of ways, and they did a very good job, especially in the Kyoshi Warriors episode, of showing that. I think they did a good job, considering, like you said, like the uproar that it caused.
Now, unfortunately, of the main trio, Katara. It's not that it was bad, it just wasn't good.
I guess you could put it that way.
Like, okay, so like on the surface, I don't know. The main problem was all of it. There was it was an acting thing, because she just didn't have a lot of emotion. She's very stone cold faced. She did start to get a little bit better throughout the series. I think she started to take that on a little bit more, but really I think it was just, I don't know, it was just a weird casting choice for me. And I also didn't think that it helped that the writing of the character was not good. It's like they didn't even know who Katara was. Like, they don't understand her as this intensely protective, gonna do what's right. I don't know, she was just kind of there.
Yeah, she really was. I think, honestly, the biggest fault in her character, maybe not her character, the writing, her acting, something along those lines was her interactions with Aang. Really, throughout the entire season, are very, very cold, very forced. Feeling like two people are just, you know, in front of a camera saying these lines. Like there's no in the original series, you know, they have a connection instantly. Like it's very, very noticeable, you know, that they become friends and everything. In this, it really just feels like they're trying to force, you know, hey, we're good friends, and it's like, no, it didn't really work. So
yeah, I remember the beginning of, I think it was the second or third episode. We were holding out hope. We were like, come on, all right. You could feel like each episode progressively, like, all right, well, there was still good some stuff in that episode, and then at the beginning of like the third episode is like, probably the next big one after that is one of the best ones I think we had in this one was Zuko.
absolutely.
I was actually pretty. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the acting in the first one or two episodes. We talked about that. You thought he was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the line reading was a little bit weird, kind of like everybody's was in the first couple episodes. But he really grew into the role. And you know, I know you were saying about how his character was on both sides.
Yeah, like they did a really good job showing. You know, Zuko in the first season particularly is obviously just a very angry, you know, very childish, I want what I want type of guy. But there are hints of his goofiness that we see later in like season 3 of the original cartoon. There's a specific scene where he's looking for the Avatar in a bar, and it really does a good job of showing that goofy side of him, because he kind of is very awkward when asking us questions. He doesn't really know how to do this just yet, and so the actor, I believe his name is Dallas Limu, he does a very good job of showing the both sides of him. I mean, and as you know, Matt was saying, as the season progresses, he does a fantastic job. I think especially in his nonverbal acting. I think he really hits these little tones of the character very well, where the beginning is a little rough, you know, he's a little too angry maybe at times, like a little too out there with his line reads, but as the season progresses, I think he really hones in and finds the right note.
I think a big part of this with his character, which is something we'll come back to a couple times during all these sections, is they did such a good job with the Iroh-Zuko relationship. I mean, that was one of the things that they added more stuff to, which again we'll talk about in a minute, that was just like, that worked. Not only did it work, it actually was almost better. There are a couple of things that they did in this series, changes, where I thought, you know, it's not like it's taking away from the original, but that was a really good idea. And I think that, you know, just Iroh, who also amazing, did a great job. I mean, he had the wisdom, he had the funny side to him. He had, you know, he loved tea and everything. I thought he did an amazing job in that relationship. You know, they really built that to make it so that, yeah, I mean, we see this in the first season of the original show, but it really emphasizes they are the villains of the first season, but not, I mean, they are, but it's forced onto them. They're not actually terrible people. Well, we got Ozai, who we don't actually see in the first season of Avatar, but we saw him in this one. And Daniel Kim,
I believe so,
yeah, he did a great job. I mean, he had that presence of like, oh shit, like this guy's here, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, they take his character, like we dive in a little bit more into like Zuko's banishment in some of the episodes, and they take his character and, you know, I'm not gonna say a different direction, but they show us like another side or two of how that plays out. And there's a part of you is like, you know, he does things where it's like, that maybe makes sense when you put it that way, and then he'll say like another line right after or something, and you're like, this guy is just the absolute worst.
Yeah. Actually, in those scenes, we also got another character, or I guess a couple, who we don't see in the first season, except for literally right at the end, like I think the last shot of the first season, which is Azula. A lot of people didn't like that Azula was in the first season of this show because she's not really supposed to be introduced. I actually thought it was a good idea because we don't see like a lot that actually changes the plot or anything that much. I mean, some things, but not too much. And really, it's just setting up her character and delivering more of why she is the way she is, perfectionistic, pushed, you know, beyond her control into doing everything perfectly by Ozai. And that was one of the only things in the original show that could have probably been fleshed out a little bit more. So I actually like that they put this in the beginning to show where she's coming from and set up the fact that, yes, she is a 14-year-old, which I think we forget.
Honestly, like, I agree. I think it was important to get some of these things out there. I do think the execution was a little odd in terms of her main, characteristic in the cartoon is very sly and cunning and, like, almost, like, very likable in an evil way. We don't see much of that at all. We really see just the perfectionistic side of her. Like the almost angry side of her that we see every now and again, but really not the main personality traits. So hopefully in season 2 they dive into that more as she does more like plot, things and schemes different things up and things like that.
I also very, very, very much hope that we get to see any sort of life in May or Ty Lee. I don't care who they cast for it. I cared that the whoever was directing each episode made them do literally fucking nothing. Every single scene, they were just standing there like you were saying, it was like they were in a high school play.
Yeah, like the way that like even down to like their costumes like looked like this is kind of something throughout the whole show, but it kind of looked like they just been put on. Like they're just standing there like they're supposed to exit stage left after the scene is over. They don't do much of anything whatsoever. And that's compared to the original show where the first time we meet Ty Lee, she's doing a handstand. So it's.
And even May, who doesn't do a whole lot, she's lounging around, flipping like knives or something. Give her something to do. So that kind of sucked. But hopefully, again, this is something I'm going to come back around to a little bit later. But hopefully, they can just take these notes and take what we already got and do better the next couple seasons with these characters and some of the writing. Jet, honestly, was a great actor.
Absolutely,
one of the best ones.
100%. I think. He came into a point in the show where the acting was still trying to find its footing, and then he shows up and he immediately adds like a breath of fresh air to like really good genuine acting. And honestly, after that is where it feels like the acting took a turn. Like I know that that's not exactly how it works, but it really does feel like the acting took a turn after he shows up, almost like his character like gave a boost to like the rest of the acting of the show. So
yeah. I mean, I think just bring this part up now. But we were watching the 3rd episode. And, so first episode, we're like, all right, it was pretty good, some weird stuff, it was pretty good. Second episode, we were like, that was still pretty good, some things still disappointed, and then maybe by the 3rd episode, they'll really have the line reading down and the acting and stuff. And then we got to the 3rd episode, and it started, and we didn't have to look at each other, you could just feel the room be like, oh, God, we have like 5 more episodes of this. I think we paused it like 17, 20 minutes in, something like that, because we had to go out to dinner or something. And we just, no hope, When we needed him most, he vanished. And then we came back, and I don't know what happened.
From the second we resumed, really.
The episode just got better. And again, we didn't even need to, I just paused it. We both went, what the hell just happened? It just got better. There was emotion and good stuff. I don't know.
And it really just took off from there. From like that point on, the rest of the show really felt like it took a turn. It's
for the most part.
For the most part, yeah. Take it with a grain of salt. But, it really felt like things started to find their footing. It's like, what happened here? What happened in between the pause? Like...
Yeah, I don't know. This is coincidence. I don't know. But, yeah, and in that 3rd episode as well, we get the Mechanist and his son. And it's funny, seeing Danny Pudi in the lineup for the casting, I thought, really? Abed?
Cool.
He was one of the only character stills where I thought, this just looks dumb. And yet he was one of the best ones because he was like serious, like he was really good, but he could also be quirky like the Mechanist was. I thought the son, the guy that they cast, was perfect, like looks wise and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Boomy, Boomy in that episode.
Definitely a pretty big change compared to the original cartoon. I mean, this show has a lot of big changes, that's for sure. He might be among the biggest. I honestly don't think I absolutely hated it. I mean. In the cartoon, he's obviously very happy to see Aang. He's very excited, and it's just kind of like, hey, Aang, just remember you got a job to do. And this one, he's complete opposite, very angry for what Aang has done for leaving them and putting him in this position. And I don't think I hate it, honestly.
Where Boomy needed to just be the regular character, he did a really good job as well. He had the voice down. It's hard, and I'm going to talk about this later, but it's hard to adapt cartoon characters to real life and have it be like it works, but it's not cheesy. You know, like it's really really hard. I mean, the original show is a little cheesy for kids, inherently. But I think with Boomy they did a really good job with his characters in terms of the look and the sound, at least. Just motivationally, it was different for sure. I think I agree with you on that it gave it more gravity, because that is one of the episodes, King of Omashu, I think it is, where it does feel just kind of like, okay, it was, you know, a fun ride. Plot-wise, it's more so just like, hey, things are still coming. They're not here yet, but they're gonna happen. And in this one, you know, even though we like to have those moments of just like fun stuff, if they're gonna have it sped up a little bit, it does add more depth and weight to this really terrible thing that's happened. What else? Zhao,
great.
he did a good job. He really put his all into being like, this is the most American accent anybody has ever heard in their life.
Yeah.
But I liked it. He wasn't like big. Like, it was weird. They made Iroh big and Zhao small, but he had that presence of like, I'm gonna be cunning. I'm gonna like go along with whatever Zuko's doing and turn on him later. I think that they did a good job. He did a great job acting wise.
Moving forward to like towards the end of the season, we have all of like the Northern Water Tribe folk. You know,
Kaku was weird looking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Something didn't sit right with us. I don't know what it was. You know,
he doesn't look like a real person. He looks like a video game character.
On that same note, I mean, Grand.
I just gotta take a call.
So let me speak for Matt when I tell you that we weren't the biggest fans of Gran, that's for sure. She looks fake, first of all. She acts oddly. I think honestly, Gran can be summed up by the slide whistle from the original cartoon. Her whole character is just a disappointment, really.
I hated how she looked in the still. I was like, you don't look old. I'm sorry, and you look fake. Then they took her and made her the exposition for the whole first episode, and then she just has the waterbending scrolls. Like, come on, man! Like, I know you just speed stuff up, but man, they really just threw Gran under the bus. But you know who was actually better than I thought they were going to be was Yue. Very surprised, honestly. Yue was. It was funny because she was the one who, before I finished, the episodes. Before we got to that point, we just could see the memes of just her staring and looking. She had like the resting bitch face look, and I was like, I hate this. I don't know, the look wasn't fantastic, but they gave her more to do instead of just being like this whining. The thing about Yue, I think, in the original is that her legacy and what she does after, like the sacrifice itself, is better than her actual character. And in this one, her actual character was cool.
The payoff for her sacrificing herself in this is far better because she's a real character. They make her actually very comical and very relatable in many aspects. They make her and Sokka's relationship feel like a real relationship. Like, it made them, they really connected in this one, whereas in the original it's like, okay, we have an episode and a half to set up this character that's very wishy-washy and then has to do this thing, and you don't really feel all that bad that she's gone. But in this one, you do, honestly, because you feel bad. You feel like Sokka really connects with her. So, speaking of Sokka's relationship, Suki, I think Suki's fantastic.
Dude.
If I had to picture a live-action Suki, it was her.
Suki, amazing. And I'm so excited to see more of her coming in the next couple of seasons because, she's perfect. I think she was one of the ones that everybody just loved.
Kyoshi was awesome. She's a very imposing figure in the cartoon, and they sure as hell made her imposing. She's freaking 6'8". She might be a WNBA player. I'm not positive. And
Caitlin Clark versus Kyoshi.
she's an aggressive person in this one, that's for sure. As she is in the cartoon, so good on that. But then
Roku, they nerfed Roku so hard. Oh my god, because why did they make him? Well, okay, so we got Monkey Yatsu, who's perfect, who's great, and then again made the depth of that relationship even more. And there was so much emotion there.
Joyful, caring, but also a mentor, exactly how he should have been, but...
And then Roku, they just made it the exact same way, if not worse, because Roku's, the first time we meet him, which is not only kind of stupid in how it plays out, but he just makes a stupid joke. And I'm like, this is the Roku would be like, Aang. Roku's not even like a pal. He's like, again, a mentor. Like, somebody has to, like, he's the only other one who knows Aang's situation. Like, he's not a jokester. I don't know. It just...
It was a complete another 180 to the character. I'm not sure what their thought process was. I'm not sure why they decided to make Aang's character less childish and then make one of the most serious characters more childish. I'm not sure what the thought process really was there. But they better figure it out quick because his character in the original cartoon is literally one of the best. I mean, he's, like you said, the only one that understands Aang because he's part of the reason that Aang's in this position, and then also, offers him wisdom on how to be the Avatar. That was what Avatar Kyoshi's role really was in the series up to this point. Like, Roku was comic relief that we didn't need, essentially, so hopefully they figure that one out quick.
I guess last but not least, we got Appa and Momo. Who, I thought they were good, like, design-wise, I thought they were great. Could have definitely done more with them. I think that falls in line still with that whole they're taking a lot of fun out of the show and making way for more plot to speed it up. So hopefully they can add a couple more moments with them that make them actually feel like other characters in the game. Okay, so I guess, the next big section is the episodes and pacing, which we sort of touched on a little bit, but I want to definitely go into that more because Netflix decided to do something they didn't have to do, which was make less episodes than, they're Netflix, they could do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. And this is a huge thing that they knew everyone was going to be like, you have to do this well. And if you're going to combine episodes, make them 40 minutes, that's great. If you have 2 20-minute episodes, 10 episodes. Mm-hmm. Done. Why did they make it 8 episodes?
It's not like money's an issue for Netflix. The money they put out, well, first of all, for this show, I believe the budget for each episode was anywhere between 25 and like 40 million, something like that, maybe upwards of 50 million. I think it was an odd choice by Netflix, and in some regards, it does a good job of taking out episodes we don't care about. And others, they rush some things, that's for sure.
The first 2 episodes are pretty by the book. Episode 3 is where things are like, holy, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Because you've got Omashu, you've got the Mechanist, you've got Jet, all rolled into one. Now, I will say it was a risk to do that. I think I would prefer that they just didn't do that. Mm-hmm. But if they had to, I actually thought it worked out better than I would have thought it could have gone. Because it left this sort of mystery of like who's trading off with firearms with the Fire Nation and who's the one who's going to bomb it and everybody thinks it's everybody else, and I don't know. So I think some of the stuff they combined was okay, especially for that episode. It was definitely weird in spots, and then the next one I think is actually pretty straightforward. Again, it's with Boomy, and I want to say, is that the Secret Tunnel one? Yeah,
it might be.
Aang is with Boomy, and then Sokka and Katara are underneath in the Cave of Two Lovers, which we're not gonna...
Cave of Two Siblings.
Really. I thought it was a cool idea to make it about, like, a sibling coming back together sort of deal. That was okay. I do have to say, by far, the most accurate thing in this entire show were the Secret Tunnel players, the band.
Oh, absolutely.
They were having the time of their... They understood the assignment, just doing, like, the whole, like, Secret Tunnel, like... they had it down.
It was perfect, really.
And honestly, that's all I need.
Yeah, I would say, honestly, it felt like the pacing, it was like the first third of the show was pretty good. The middle third was a little weird. And then I think the last few episodes get back on track with the pacing.
Yeah, because one thing that they did that I thought was pretty cool, actually, was in the swamp. Actually, that's not the swamp episode. It's the Spirit World episode with Heibai. They combine that with the swamp, and people out there who have seen the Percy Jackson movies and read the books, you know what I'm talking about when I say that everyone hates that they put the Hydra in the first movie, because then what do you do with the second movie? You're just screwing stuff up, moving stuff around. In this, I think that was okay, because the swamp episode is hailed as one of the lesser ones that people don't really care about as much. And it's one of those things that, then you take out, the whole nature side of it and those themes and stuff like that, which Avatar is very, very good for having. But again, that's not their goal in this series, which does suck, but I guess I get where they're coming from in terms of, they want to make it like a Game of Thrones, like a very action-packed go, go, go. But I think it was actually kind of cool because, in the spirit world, we got a lot of that swamp stuff, it still made sense, and actually I think was even more impactful with some of the stuff that they did. Like, you know, like the UA foreshadowing and stuff like that. I thought was pretty cool.
I do think that the addition of Wang Shitong, the owl from the library episode, was a bit of a misfire because the library episode in the original cartoon is literally one of the most pivotal episodes of the entire show. It sets the basis for the rest of season 2 and the entire first half of season 3. And so, I mean, you can almost guarantee that episode will be there in season 2. So it's kind of odd to throw the character from that into there. Like, I mean, because we're going to have to see him eventually. So unless they just, I don't know, decide to take him out of the episode, which I don't know why you would. But I think that was an odd choice. I mean, he looked fantastic. Like, that is one thing. All of the spirits, designs, and things like that, and like playing off that a little bit, like different like props and things like that. I think all of like that design was spectacular in the entire show.
I mean, Heibai, terrifying. Ko, even more terrifying. Oh my god, that was really well done. What wasn't, I guess, so great, or maybe what I don't remember. The thing with Ko was they actually gave him more plot in terms of like he needed something back that was stolen. That was kind of weird. Like, what was that?
It's like, instead of making him just like a purely sinister character, it's like he has a motive for being sinister. And it's like, I don't know why we're taking the time to do that.
Something else.
What was that?
Like, we could be doing something else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you could have added like a cool another little thing from another episode if you wanted to, but instead, here's a side quest that wasn't even in the original that's taking a full 15-20 minutes to solve when we don't really have that time.
And I mean, in general, that was just, I think, one of the worst episodes of the 8. That might have been the worst, honestly, was the one where he goes to meet Roku, because not only was Roku a fail, but wow, he gets there. You know, like in the what was that episode called?
Where the Winter Solstice Part 2.
Yeah, when he gets there, it's like a whole thing. They got to get into the Fire Nation, then it's this whole thing to get into the room. And then when he comes out, the whole Roku, like, blasting everything apart. And this one, it was literally just, he flies in. He's like, to the guys who are the guards, who are like, don't. And they're like, okay. And then he walks in, and then he meets Joku. I'm going to call him Joku. And then leaves. I don't know. It was just weird. But then either before or after this, we get the Blue Spirit. That one is absolutely one of the best ones of the season.
100%.
They did such a good job with that one.
The scene at the end, you know, with like Aang and Zuko, where Aang's like, hey, maybe we could have been friends. Again, I really loved Zuko in this and his actor, and so I thought that was fantastic. Like, you could just see, like, this is kind of the nonverbal acting I was talking about with him. You can just see in his face, like, just how pissed he's getting at what Aang is saying to him, and then he just absolutely erupts and like damn near blows his own boat apart that he's on. So just absolutely fantastic. It's only one small part of the episode, but absolutely fantastic episode.
And it's funny because I think in the movie that doesn't exist, and in this series, the Blue Spirit is something that they took the time to do the entire thing completely whole. So that must be such a pivotal episode that they both of these works decided that they needed to take the time to do it completely. And it was funny because I was telling you earlier that it's this weird, like, there's no winning, because if they change stuff, it's like, why'd you change stuff? But then when they did this, my first thought, besides this was fantastic, was, why are we doing this if it's the exact same thing? So that's like a question I'll get to in a minute. And then we get to the North Pole and all of that, which I think was like 50-50. The battle, amazing.
Awesome.
The effects for the water lizard Aang thing, awesome. Iroh getting angry, awesome. The fight between Katara and Zuko,
it
was so good.
Fantastic, which is so odd considering the animation for it was spectacular. The episode just prior with Katara and Haku. I'm sorry.
CGI. The animation.
Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. The bending. The episode prior with the Katara and Haku was dreadful. Really, it was some of the slowest, most labored, CGI you've ever seen. And then in the next episode, Zuko and Katara is just like the most fluent, like well choreographed, well CGI'd bending. So I don't really know what the contrast was there. Maybe it was different directors for the episodes, because I know some of the episodes did have different directors.
But yeah, so I was like, all right, that's awesome. It was kind of funny. I was like, you little peasant, you got a master. And it's like, yeah, but because of the pacing of the show, it was like yesterday.
Yeah.
But now I know what I'm doing completely. So this is one of those little things. Other stuff that they changed or added, I should say, that was probably without a doubt the best stuff that they changed and added to this show was everything to do with Zuko and Iroh.
Mm-hmm.
Not only just their relationship, and one of the best scenes in the movie is this flashback to where Zuko is talking to Iroh at Iroh's son's funeral, which we only can see a little bit of in the original show, a little bit of like actual moments of Iroh talking about her with his son. But the other thing was it was like this change where they made okay, so the episode, I think it was The Storm,
Mm-hmm.
in the original, where it talks about like why Zuko is the way that he is and the crew comes to respect him. But in this one, they actually made it that the crew comes to respect him not only because just of who he is and what he's been through, but because what he did, it's saving them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his crew. So that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, that's probably my favorite part of the entire season. It's not like the cool bending. It's not like seeing some of our favorite references from like in small parts, whatever. It's that change, which it's almost sad that wasn't in the original. I mean, it really is a truly fantastic twist that you don't see coming. I mean, combining the reason that the way that he is because he spoke out, but the fact that he saved these guys, and so that's also why they can come to respect him. Is like I don't know. I felt that was a truly genius idea.
Yeah,
I loved it.
And so it's just so weird that they had some of these incredible things and then they did other things so much worse. But before we get into that, just real quick, we've already kind of touched on it, but I think these will go a lot quicker. Is the world building and the effects great? I mean, we already talked about the creatures. A lot of the props were done very, very well. The costumes are probably the only thing left to be desired. They kind of
look good. Yes, they look very accurate, but they look too good. They look like you just plopped them on.
Yeah, like some of them were okay, but yeah, they feel like Party City costumes. Kind of like your Disney live action, like Aladdin or something, where it was like he's supposed to be this guy who's running around begging for change, and yet he looks completely perfect and clean. All his clothes are pristine. It kind of had that feel to it, which is weird, and even like the hair, just felt too much hair. Like it was too perfect. Other than that, I thought the world building, I mean, the production design, the cities, they did an amazing job with how they looked, I think. And then the effects, the bending is awesome.
You really got to see, like, as it is in the show, like, all these different styles of what you can do with the bending. I mean, the first scene of the entire show is an earthbender, or an earthbending, like, soldier or something running from the Fire Nation, and he does, like, 3 or 4 different, like, earthbending techniques just right off the bat, and it really sets the tone for like, okay, we're going to be able to do a lot with the bending here. It's not going to take 6 people to move 1 rock, if you know. So I think that's really a good change, and also with the bending, I think really putting some gravitas to like the bending in terms of the damage it does to people. I mean, we literally see like Ozai burn a human being alive. There's like people when they get hit with rocks that has some oomph to it, it has some weight. So I think really all of the bending actually feels like it has effects on the characters.
And getting to see the actual Fire Nation, like the raiding of the Air Temple with that was kind of horrifying, actually.
Yeah.
There's one little moment that I just remember with, for all the Supernatural fans out there, Kevin Tran, Advanced Placement, Osric Chow, I think that's his name. There was that moment where it was like rallying the people and they like snuck in there and they were going to go kill Ozai. I don't know. It was a good idea. It was executed really weirdly. It was still earlier in the season when all the line readers were just odd. And he's a good actor, so like I don't know. It was just weird. But even then, the actual effects, because another person in that scene gets burned alive. It was just it was really well done. So in terms of that, these next 2 seasons, these fights are going to be amazing. What they really need to do, though, is what I'm hoping, take what we've set up, and there's a lot of good stuff there. They've already had a lot of things kind of set. Take that, listen to the audience and the fans, and pace it better, and hopefully these actors will now have gotten more used to their characters and how to act and everything, and the line reads can be a little bit better. But I'm just hoping generally, I mean, especially the first season's the one that's out of the three the least interesting, I guess I would say. But I'm hoping that they can take what they already have and ramp it up for these other two that could just be so good. It's gonna be really hard because every episode in season 2 is amazing. So how do you combine that? Maybe they can order 10 episodes this time.
I guess I'm glad that they took care of some of the episodes that aren't as necessary for season 2. You know, like Cave of Two Lovers, and Swamp. Because now we can have more time for the episodes that do matter, which is practically all of them. So in season 2. So you know, I'm glad that they did that for sure.
It's a shame we couldn't get the Great Divide. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Really, I guess my last thoughts are, I guess two big things. One, obviously we had already seen the original show, so we wouldn't be able to tell. But I just wonder, for someone who has never seen the original, one, how this looks in general, just how the show is. Obviously there's probably stuff that's objectively still not great, but aside from that, they wouldn't know what the pacing of the original show is. So would it be good if you haven't seen it? And then also, would it lead people into seeing the original show? I wonder if there are parts that people would be like, that was really good, that we're like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing about that is, though, like, I'm just not sure that there is anybody that's watching this that hasn't watched the original. I mean, even if you haven't, it's like, I'm not going to go and watch the live-action One Piece before I watch One Piece, you know?
That's true.
I feel like if you're watching this, you've 100% watched the original in some capacity. True. So, but it is something to think about. I mean, I would imagine that somebody would be like, this is okay, you know? I think it looks kind of odd, because, like, I don't know, like, I just feel like if I was thinking about it from, like, a objective perspective, it probably looks a little odd in just some ways. It looks pretty cool in some ways, and that's what we think about it. And so, but I think just for the most part, if anybody's watching this, you've probably watched the original.
That's true. My other thought watching this throughout the whole thing and after and processing it is, we have this and we got the movie. Now, the movie, you can discount that a little bit more because that was just Shaymalan being him.
You can discount it completely if you ask me. I don't know.
But even then, the movie did, in some ways, like the Blue Spirit and right at the beginning, they did kind of moment by moment play out a lot of these episodes, the full thing.
Right.
And in either one, even in this live action one, even though they did it accurately, and I mean, the Blue Spirit was probably a lot better. But like for the beginning, those first couple where they did it very, very, to the T, it still felt like something's just off about it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I just wonder, is this something that could ever be adapted perfectly? Because you're trying to adapt an animated show which has the luxury of being goofy and for kids and funny and lighthearted, but also can surprise you with maturity and dark things and implying dark things rather than just having to show them, and trying to turn that into a live action show which can be funny. It can have lighthearted moments for sure, like obviously. But it can't be goofy the way, like super goofy the way an animated show can. It doesn't have that luxury inherent to animation, especially how they move, obviously how things are animated. And so I just wonder, is it something that could ever actually be done no matter how many times they try it? Because at a certain point, you're either going to have something where people go, this was too dark, or this looked too fake and goofy. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think, honestly, you're right. I don't think it ever could perfectly, because, like, there's just... Hold on.
Do you need some Fanta in your system?
No, I don't think this could ever be done perfectly because, I mean, like, just inherently, there's just, like, faces the characters make. Like, The Great Divide is a terrible episode, but there's, like, this one face that Aang makes when he's talking about the custard. Yeah. Or, like, when he's running from the Unagi.
I can't even make that face.
I mean, there's just certain things you absolutely cannot do. Even, like real, like, things, not just, like, funny faces, but, like, most of the bending moves are gonna be damn near impossible to do. And they're some of the coolest parts of the entire show. So no, I mean, there's a lot of things that this won't be able to do. But again, there's things that this will be able to do that the show couldn't, like, really giving some weight and gravitas to certain things in terms of like honestly just killing people. That's not really something we see it sort of once in a cartoon, but we've already seen it a couple times in this show. So I mean, is it ever going to be perfect? No, but that's also because Avatar: The Last Airbender is damn near a perfect show. So
That's true. Yeah.
you know.
But yeah, you're right. There are things that they could do, which I'm hoping they could take advantage of. Like, wasn't it wild when like you thought he was going to be the main character, and then right in the 9th episode, you just took off Aang's head? Weird.
That was wild.
That was really weird. And then Katara just kept saying to Azula, "You are my queen," and I was like, "I don't want it. I don't." It's just
I don't know.
really weird. I don't. Yeah. But yeah, there's those things that they could really take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, any other thoughts? I'm sure we'll be back for season 2, and we'll either be like, "Wow, thank God, all right, cool," like really, or we'll just be depressed.
I think my last thoughts are honestly they've done a very good job. I do hope that they add a little bit more. Maybe they've already missed their chance because of how season 1 is. I hope they add a little bit more lightheartedness because I think the core of the main show is when Aang is about to start fighting Ozai. This is like you feel it's like a palpable sense of like this is a culmination of him really maturing over 3 seasons, adding to the maturing or how mature he already was in some aspects, but in a lot of ways it's a very palpable feel of like you're like proud of him for what he's about to fight. I don't know that this show is going to have the same like feel to it because they've already set him up as not as goofy and lighthearted in some ways. He's more just like nice rather than goofy.
Yeah.
He's kind. Like,
the way he
just
delivers,
nice, but
I just like the way he delivers lines are like, yeah, they go up and they fly into the trees. It's like, what are you talking about? Like,
he's nice, but I don't know. He's not as goofy, and he doesn't have like as much learning to do. And it's like there's certain points, like even in season 2, when he's finally like, yeah, I'm the Avatar. What about it? And it's like I don't know. Like I don't feel like that's gonna have the same
Come get a taste.
weight. And so like I feel like there's one through line that we won't have in the show, which is going to be disappointing to myself at least. But honestly, I think they've done a good job, and I'm very excited, especially like for how they ended the season with the acting. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as they just, like I said, just take it, go on to season 2, and do their best with it, then we can be like, all right, 1, a little bit of a rocky start, but then moving on to 2. It got better, and we can be even excited for 3. I think they could still pull. It wasn't an absolute utter train wreck, which is not the review you want as the director. Being like, hey, at least it wasn't Shyamalan's movie. But no, obviously you have the original, you have Shyamalan's movie, and this is like there-ish, not about halfway. At least it gives us, we can go up from here, and I think they will. Okay, so overall score for the season, what would you give it out of 4?
Well, honestly, I don't actually give things out of 4.
Okay, well, what do you give it out of?
17, obviously.
Okay, what would you give it out of 17?
A 4.
No. Really?
No.
No, okay.
Honestly, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I'd give it a passing grade. If you came home with a 70% of your test, I'm sure you're happy enough. So that's what I am. Happy enough.
C's get degrees. I think I'm gonna give it, when all's said and done, I think I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 4, making it my next true season in the middle, which I don't think I've ever actually had just yet. So this is the first one, I think.
Hey.
Let us know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Let's have a discussion. I know it's been a couple months, but I think we've had time to process and mourn, but also be like, hey, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought. So let us know in the comments below what you think. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and Avatar right in the middle. And we will be back for season 2.
Yep, absolutely.
Goodbye.